So we'll start off with, how did you get into competitive swim coaching? Like, how did you get into the world of competitive swimming?
Yeah, well, we moved up to Rochester when I was 6, and I had some friends who were in the big swim team here at the time, and so my parents dropped me in. Rochester Swim Club has been around for 75 years, and at the time that I dropped in, it was split into 2 different teams serving different needs in our community. But then back in 2017, we merged back to Rochester Swim Club, so we are, one team now. I swam until 2010 in high school, and then I swam for UW Wisconsin for a year, and that was just like peak of my life. Love the Badgers, and everything about their program was incredible. And then I spent, several years over in Madison and came back to Rochester, wanted to work for Mayo, and then I just was like really bored. So I wanted to step on deck, and I was able to start assistant coaching at that time. A few years after that, they had an opening for their lessons director position. The lady who was working with lessons was moving away. And so in 2018, I stepped into that role. And basically, for the last 7 years, Nancy, my assistant, and I have been growing the program as much as we can within some constraints. We don't own our own water. We work with a city facility. So that's been interesting. So I've done the lesson side. I've swam up at, the D1 level, and now I'm not as much coaching as I am, meet administrative support during competitions, but I am still working hand in hand with our head coach, and that's been pretty great. So similar to you, Thomas, right? It's easier when you know kind of the lay of the land of the whole organization, but really my major foot is planted in our lessons program.
Awesome. So you mentioned Mayo, wanting to get a job at Mayo. So were you like on track for like medical school or?
No, I knew I was not patient enough, disciplined enough to be a doctor, but there were a lot of really awesome allied health staff positions that Mayo Clinic offers because of their scale, that a lot of smaller facilities, a nurse does everything, right? And so I was really keyed into some of those more specific opportunities. But it was very obvious that my heart is at the pool, and it helps that this is the team that I grew up on. And I've now kind of turned the page and I'm helping support it as an adult. So that's really had my heart.
What do you love about coaching most?
I think, especially in the position I'm in, I love seeing the kids as they grow. So we have an infant water safety program here. So we start these kids sometimes as young as 6 months old. And then, some swimmers stay with us until they're in elementary and middle school. And just this past President's Day weekend, we had a major swim meet, and 20 different kids that Nancy and I have, kind of seen through the program made their state and zone times. And they were so excited to come tell me that. And I think that connection and just being that person to be excited for someone, it means the most to me. And so at the meet, I was running our admin tent away from the deck. And I felt the same way, Thomas. I was like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought I would be fighting to get back into that role. But I do. I spoke to Tom later and I just said, I'd like a shift or two to just coach, please. Because, yeah, that connection is really where it's at for me.
So then for your swim lessons program, so it starts off with like water safety, and then does it go into like a pretty competitive program, like getting the kids ready for team?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bill Meyer with Swim America probably wouldn't want me to get too far ahead of things, but I'm working with Swim America as a franchise to help bring our prep squad into their view with a bridge to team program. And so we identified right before COVID, but then COVID really strengthened this. We just resounding need for us. That bridge program where swim lessons are one thing and those kids can be exceptional at the technical skills. But then when you put them in a swim team environment, even just a practice, there are 100 different things that are new, different. Even the verbiage that a coach might use might be slightly different and throw a kid out of their comfort zone. And we don't, but success isn't found in a comfort zone. So we don't necessarily want to bubble wrap them, but we did want to make sure that from the ground up in our program, the vocabulary that we use is consistent and that it's all progressive. That's a big component for Swim America's methodology, is that we build on what we know and we repeat and we practice and get better. And the swim team is modeled very similarly. And specifically, our prep squad program is matched with Tom's introductory groups on the team. So prep squad's a monthly set, and then it rolls into a monthly intro group depending on their age at that time. We try really hard. We offer mini meets and block party meets now to try and ease families into competition, because we've also noticed that competition, that word, really seems to throw more people than it used to. So we're trying to encourage them that this is something fun to do. It's not, it might be intimidating, but it's worth that set of nerves. And the pre-competitive group has been instrumental in breaking down some of those barriers.
So I feel like a lot of organizations, especially if they have a swim school attached, getting that synergy can be pretty challenging. So can you tell me just a little bit about like how did you guys? I mean, 75 years in the making and of the full story, but like in its current modern implementation, how did you guys get that connection and that synergy across the board? That seems very impressive.
Absolutely. Well, I think it started, way back even in kind of the identity struggle. Not that there was real negativity here, but with Rochester Swim Club kind of being that banner name, we also have a diving club. And now the lessons program is bigger than ever. And within the lessons program, we offer so many things. And so that's kind of how Rochester Aquatics as a brand came forth, to give everybody space and to operate as their own unit. And then once we were kind of given that room, we were able to start reaching toward each other and trying to work synergistically. And I would say, Thomas, the number one thing has been having the key players on the same page, same paragraph. Tom stepping in, he's our head coach, and he stepped into the intro groups, and I and Nancy overheading prep squad, we had meetings. We made sure that what we were doing in our respective areas aligned, and that the information we were giving our families along the way helped support, because we were also talking about a website change, and swim team registration is something so crazy different than a swim lesson session registration, and just how that timing is and the numbers associated. Our scholarship processes are different between the two things. So I think that across the board for any program, they just need to make sure that the key players are dialed in. And then if those key players are the right people, then they're going to kind of impact and bring up the other staff along, in the direction of the vision. But we haven't had any issues, because we knew we started from the same place. And when I say any issues, I mean, like there hasn't been anything that we've had to stop and change the philosophy on what we've been building. And I think, the organization for a long time, kids first was that mission statement kind of out there. We've shifted this year to everything aquatics for everyone, every day. And we want to have that space for the competitive swimmer for high school, and then the competitive swimmer who's trying to make a D1 school after they graduate. And then we also want to have some competitive swimming for kids who are literally just here for the season. And then they want to have fun and engage with some like-minded people. So long-winded answer.
If you don't mind me transitioning now kind of towards asking you some questions about Captyn, just in general, like how has your experience been with Captyn?
We unfortunately hit major roadblocks with SportsEngine and TeamUnify when they did their web update. And that was the leverage that I needed and used to get our executive director at the time to approve a website change. And from the start, Captyn's been accessible and intuitive. And that's helped not only our customer base, but our staff immeasurably. We've been able to look at why we have registration a certain way and what we're offering. Now been able to shift to registration by class day and time again, because that's a longer answer. And we can get into that in a little bit. But I would just say that having the intuitive and accessible use of Captyn has just completely raised our ceilings. Our private lessons, Thomas, believe it or not, we were manually scheduling those lessons before Captyn came into play. I would have,
We were doing the same.
yeah, 400 Google form responses, and I would be in a master spreadsheet trying to match people. There personalized customer service to that, where they would be able to kind of pick and choose what they wanted, and I would give them as close to the match. But in no way, shape, or form were we hitting our capacity numbers the way that we have since now posting availability. on Captyn for privates. And we actually do private lessons really weirdly, I'm sure, to a lot of people in the Captyn world. We don't use the custom private lesson suite very often. We have a hybrid staff of student athletes and adults in the community, and we really don't want to lose the control of communication between our instructors and their customer base. So we take our private lesson instructors availability and we post it as single date classes, and we let our families go nuts for those. And honestly, we've been single digit percentages as far as open spots for the past 6 months, which is unheard of for us. So that is number one for sure. But I would say infant and tot water safety too have been the programs that have grown the most because we've been able to get it out there. We've been able to kind of post the class time and the information instead of it just being an addendum on the website. We're able to monitor registration real time easier. So if we get to the point where we don't have enough registrants, we can cancel the class. Since we've started that though, we have not had to cancel due to low registrants. And so it's just, yeah, it's been amazing. Between the info requests, for our community lessons, we ask, does your child have a swimsuit? And if their answer is no, we have a swimsuit for them on their first day. And even just that is saving me hundreds of emails. So I'll sell Captyn every day and twice on Sunday.
Well, and you had mentioned you were kind of starting to go down like a path of maybe kind of unpacking a little bit the ability to like display registrations based on some criteria. Was that what you were?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we first started with Captyn, the way that we felt was best to register was by level. So Swim America, we get to move these kids up through the session, but to be very clear with their parents what they were registering for and which level they were in, they would find level 1 on Monday, Wednesdays at 6:50. And that's just an extra filter. Totally worked fine. We filled, it was great. But since now having Captyn for a couple years and cross training our staff on the other side, we're now confident to move away from the level filter as well. So we post group lessons, all levels, Monday, Wednesday, 6:50. And then our families can just click and enroll their participants, however many they have. We had a lot of feedback from our multi-swimmer families that it was very tough to get into our fastest filling spots if they had more than one swimmer because they'd select level 1 and then they'd go for level 4 and it would already be full. And that's a pain point in another realm when you're limited with what you can offer and your demand far outstrips your supply. I mean, Captyn works so well that our spring registration on January 20th, Sunday was full in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. By 12 hours that day, before 7 p.m., we had opened at 7 a.m. I had 3 spots left in the entire session. And so we were trying to engineer what's one less click that these families need to do and keep it a little bit more streamlined. And we found a way that we can track and adjust their levels on the spreadsheet that we use on deck anyway. We like the idea that the attendance is all alphabetized on the Today screen, so it's easy to find them no matter what level they're standing in front of. But without that flexibility on the website side, I don't know that we would have ever looked to change something so drastically. Last April, when you were signing on with Captyn, we were changing our curriculum. So we went from a 6-level curriculum to an 8-level curriculum, and it was so easy to do just because of the way that the programs are laid out. So we've really put our customers through a lot of evolution in the last 3 years, but it has by far and away been what we've needed. And we brought in, Kyle, I'm sure you've seen the numbers. We had 6 digits more each year we've had with Captyn. So it's good stuff.
An organization is simply the people, the processes, and the technology. It's like those 3 branches, and everything you've talked about is like you guys have hit the nail on the head with all those things. You have the right people with the synergy and everyone's bringing complementary skill sets and they're owning their role, but there's the collaboration. Then you've got the technology now with Captyn, but there's still the processes aspect of things. Like you said, you guys have been evolving your processes, evolving your offerings. And I think one of the big fears that a lot of potential customers of Captyn have is the transition. It's like, oh, this
Mhm.
is going to be a huge lift for us as an organization. So actually, two questions, if you don't mind. One, you had mentioned the, kind of sold out in 3 minutes. Could you tell me about like prior to Captyn, like how long would you have reached that same goal versus like 3 minutes on Sunday? Like how long would that normally have gone? And then if you don't mind as well, just kind of extending into like any words of any words you'd have for other teams that are looking to make a transition and evolution with their members that might be afraid of the backlash from their members or just the overhaul that is required in transitioning to a new software.
Absolutely. Well, and not to vilify TeamUnify and SportsEngine, I know their updates have maybe brought them a little bit closer to what you guys offer. But one thing that I would say, especially to another team considering, is what is your notification process for your programming? Because before Captain, we utilized the rain line, which no swim organization should ever touch the rain line. That is for baseball or soccer. And but it was such a tricky point, and we were trying to use it across all different things in our organization. It wouldn't work. It would need updates. People wouldn't get the notifications, and they would have to download it and subscribe additionally. With Captain, the notifications happen from the enrolled registrants in the program you're either canceling or notifying. And so that right there could be a reduction of a line item for any organization, depending on how they're using it. If they're utilizing Sports Engine in that notification way, it might be less of a perk. But for us, that was huge. The import to Captain, I did nothing. I signed into a link and it was there. So even when they did our info site, same thing. What struck me especially about the info site was it was obvious the person who made our website from Captain took time to look at our current site, and they made sure that the tenants, like the big points that were there, they were right there front and center on the new one. And I went ham and changed a bunch of different stuff around, but it was really just like the wood puzzle shifting because they had made sure to keep the integrity of our organization intact. As far as a customer standpoint, again, we were lucky. It was an easy sell. We could not even have someone start an account on TeamUnify without me sending the link. There was some glitch in the system. So for us, our customers 100% immediately loved the new option. For people who are happy, I would say the best thing a staff member can do is be enthusiastic about it and follow up. Those people are going to trust in it more and more when they see how easy it is to use. And especially if it's shortening turnaround time on communications, that I think is what speaks the loudest. So if even your only selling point to your customer base is this will help me help you better, I think it's still worth the try. Does that answer your question?
That is perfect. Yeah. And actually, I only have one more question for you. This one's kind of a fun one, and we like to end with this because it's almost like a brain teaser, if you will.
Oh
Um,
God.
but like, can you sum up in one sentence what you like about Captain?
I enjoy using it. I'm not afraid of the application. I don't avoid signing into it. I enjoy using it, which makes me better at my job.